The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Dentistry Slicer panel, and then we're going to choose our volume and select it, and then we're going to draw a curve. Now make sure you are on the red slice. On the right mouse button, click down and move your mouse. Then we're going to go to this little point thing and choose Open Curve. Make sure you choose Open Curve and not Close Curve. Then left click all along, and then right click to get rid of that, and then we're going to select the input curve, which is the C for default, and select it. As soon as we move the transfer slider, you will see in the blue window how this is moving along. Then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer these goodies into 3D Slicer. It's easy done by going to the Slicer link. Then we're going to open the server Slicer link, and we're going to connect on this side. Then what I want to do is I want to select the components which I want to transfer one time only. So let's do this. So make sure you don't select this specific one. In fact, we can put this into a different layer so that it doesn't get in our way. So what we can do is we can open up this and select it and move it into a new collection. Let's call this ICP. So for the ICP model. And then you'll see it in the outliner, ICP model. And then what we can do is we can make sure it will not be ported across when we're doing this, and but just clicking on this arrow there. So we cannot click on it when this arrow is enabled. So what we'll do is we'll select the teeth, and we'll select the model, and we will transport it across. So we're going to click on one-off transfer. It says for large models, and we'll wait for it to appear on the other side. It shouldn't take too long to do this. There we go. So note now that this has been placed in a collection called Wax Up, and you'll see this little one in disabled as well. That means that we cannot select them anymore, and these will also not port across anymore. So now that we've got the model in there, we want to be able to place the slices correct, and we need to mark where the nerve is. So let's do that. So I'll expand this one a bit because we're going to be working a little bit in this specific one at the moment. So in the dentistry panel, and we've discussed this will move accordingly. So let's move this way, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move the tangential angle at around about 90 degrees. So what that does, it places it like this, perpendicular, and this is basically what we want. And we want to make sure that the long axis of this one is sort of in the long axis of the bone. Now we can move this one to shift it a little bit, and this will give us a better view of the canal, the nerve canal. So if I go here with a mouse wheel, I can see how it runs across and it exits over here. So this is a good point firstly. So we're going to move it so that we've got a good visualization of this canal, the mandibular canal over here. So let us draw out a tube, So we're going to add another slice, and by the way, I've deleted the other segment earlier. And this is easy, you just select it and then click on remove. So we're going to make a new one. So what we'll do is make sure you have the master volume selected, add, and we're going to then draw the tube. Now it's important that you get a good visual of this first so that you can see how it runs along and where it exits as well. So with the mouse wheel, just simply scroll. Here we go, over here. Draw tube. I'm going to put this to 1.5, and then we're going to then click on this little point there, and then we drag it across and left click. That's in line, and then with the mouse wheel we're going to zoom through the slice. So we can see this over here, and then we can see it over there, and then with the mouse wheel just continue up this way, and then right click once you're finished with it. And then what we can do is we can actually move this if we want to. So we can view it, say, in a cross section. I'm going to grab one of these crosshairs and then click shift, and with a mouse wheel you can, with a mouse, just moving the mouse, and then we can follow this if we'd like to follow it. And then of course we can change these points if we want to along this line. But I think we've got it mapped out quite well. We can then continue and apply this. So I'm going to click on apply. So this is our first one, and then if you want to export this into Blender, this hasn't been made into model. This is a segment as such. So if you wanted to export it, you can either do this way like we did initially, or what we can do is we can make this into a model first, an STL model. So we're going to export nodes, and we're going to make sure it says export model, and we're going to then export. And what that does, it puts it into this model maker. So if you look at the model maker, you should then see this specific one. So in the Dentistry Slicer Blender link, we can then add model, and we're going to choose that segmentation. We could have called this nerve, so we'll just leave it for now, and then that will then transport into our Blender, and you will see then that it has ported across over here. Okay, so what we can do is we can do the other side if we want to. So let's do the other side. This is an exact repetition. So we're going to go over here, we're going to create a new one. Okay, this is a different color this time, and I'm going to shift those slices across to the other side. So here we're going to go to the panel, and we're going to move these across to the other end. So let's do this. I want to be able to move this slice correct. So if I'm going with the mouse wheel, you can see how this moves. And we can see the exit, and we can see the entire thing. This one was very simple to do. So let us go into the editor, and we're going to click on draw tube. We don't have to reset this again. Select it, add there, and then follow this exactly like this. And then right click to finish it, apply this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to export nodes. Make sure you've got this. Actually, let us name it first. Perhaps that would be a good. We'll just type in nerve left. Okay. And we're going to export this. And then in the model maker, you should see nerve left. Okay. So you don't actually have to view this. You'll know it's already there. We're going to go into the link. There's two here. That's okay. Add model and nerve left. And this will then export it across, as you can see. Perfect. Okay, so we've got two here. Now we are able to place the implants. But what I want to do is I want to port through these models as well. Now we don't see them yet, and this is a good opportunity to port them through. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a one-off transfer. We're going to select the items we want to port through, this one, and that one, and then we can click on one-off transfer. So what that does, it places these components into the wax up module, and this little icon has been disabled. That means we cannot click on it anymore, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, so the destination model, which is the big model, is in this one, disabled and disabled. This is good. We can now place our implants. Okay, so let's stay on this particular side at the moment while we are here, because we've got a good visual. I'll move that slice a little bit over though. So here in the panel, we will move this over a little bit like that to go where the actual implant site is, like this, and we're going to import an implant, tapered implant. So in the top view, I shall move this across using the G key and the R key to rotate, making sure that the buckle notch is facing buccally there. You can see it over there. And what I want to do is I want to do an initial placement. So I can do Alt B and look at it in cross section. This is very helpful, and I'm going to rotate it like this and use a G key. So I'm not an implant surgeon, so I don't claim that I know exactly how this should be best placed. So this would be up to you to determine. So if we wanted to make this implant a bit wider, for example, and now we would need to look up which implants are available to you. I'm going to take an arbitrary figure only, so you would put in your own diameters over here and your own length. Note, this is the nerve. Okay, we could make it a different color just so we can see what's going on. Okay, so we'll keep this in red, and then with this selected, I'm going to move this one into a position. We can see where it comes out of the tooth. Okay, so this is maybe too long. Let's do it 10 millimeters by 5 millimeters. And if you wanted to choose a different, instead of conical, you want to change this thing into cylindrical, just click on cylinder, and that will replace it into a cylindrical shaped implant. Now I'm watching where it's coming out, okay, and I'm also looking at where this nerve is positioned. Okay, we want to stay well clear of this specific nerve. So here, things to look out for is where it comes out, where the nerve is, and basically the width of the actual implant. Let's just clear this away like that. Okay, now assuming you are okay with this, again I'm not 100% sure, we can already see in our Dicom where this has been placed. So this is a really good way of doing this. We can see there's a little bit of extra bone there, and we could move this across this way a little bit. So on this one, Alt B, I'll have a look, and perhaps we can move it a little bit across using the G key like this, and we could then even rotate it a little bit as well if we want to, something like that. And we can also see that there's quite a bit of bone on top there as well, which we don't see in this ICP model. The segmentation model doesn't show this. So if we move it up a little bit and across a little bit. So this is just about fine-tuning. We have a safety zone over here. Note also that our model, this is our model, this is how the model is shaped. So there's a few things to look out for. So assuming now this is okay, again this is up to you to determine. We're going to move on to the other side again, and let's place implant on the other side of things. Okay, so yeah, all right, so, yeah, okay, so let's just move this across to the other side. Heading towards the implant site, let's do the premolar first, and then we can zoom in, we can move the slice like this with the mouse wheel, and I want it in the long axis of the tooth, which it is. Okay, and let's move this a little bit further, still in the center of that specific tooth, like that. Okay, so now what we can do is we can bring in a new implant, or we could duplicate this implant. So I've selected it and duplicate, and this places another implant to the side here. I'll select this, and in top view we will move this across using the G key and the R key to rotate it like that. And then what I want to do is I'll look into it in cross section using Alt B key, and then we can rotate it and bring it into position. Now note that here is the nerve. Let us make it a different color, bright red, so we can see what we're doing. And then what we want to do is, again, we want to see where it comes out, where the nerve is, and how thick it is. So in the slices, we can already see where it is, but we can also note that it is quite close to that specific root. so we can move this one a little bit on the y-axis. So if you get to know your axes, it's very easy to change the angle of these implants, for example. So I'll move this across like that. And perhaps we can shift it over like this a little bit. And maybe we can pull it up a little bit. Let's have a look in a different view over here. Moving it up a little bit like this. Again, this is totally up to you how you're going to position your implant. I will rotate it a little bit on the y-axis a little bit more. But also be consciously aware, be aware where this actually comes out of the tooth. Okay, so we've got it coming out of the tooth like this. I may choose to go with a different shape to get it a little bit more conical. So just click on replace. And we're going to make it a little bit narrower. So if you take it, say 3.5 for example, it'll be a little bit similar to the other roots. So let's rotate it a little bit more so that we can get a bit of a more upright position. So let us fine-tune it a little bit more. We can even get a little bit of a longer implant if we wanted to. Let us do a 10. These are just arbitrary figures, or you can select from the component module and choose an implant which is commercially available. .5. Let's just rotate this a little bit like this. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So I'm going to be copying another cylindrical implant. So we're going to copy that, duplicate implant, and then click on it. Make sure you click on it. And then from the top, we're going to use the G key and the R key to position it. Make sure the buckle notch is on the buckle side. And this actually helps with selecting angles if you need an angle. And here we're going to move it into position using the R key. And this one has a lot of space. So we see there's a root here which is going to be extracted, and we're going to just move this into position, rotate it a little bit on the y-axis like this perhaps, and let's make this a little bit longer because we've got quite a bit of space there. I'm not the expert in placing these implants, so with your better judgment I'm sure you will get a way better position. This is arbitrarily to demonstrate how to move them according to Blender and 3D Slicer. Okay, if you feel that's too long, maybe we do go for a shorter one. Maybe perhaps move it across a little bit like that. So again, I'm looking at the molar over here, where the molar is and how it actually extrudes out of the molar. Okay, so if I wanted to view this 360 degrees, all I need to do is shift this specific one across like that. Okay. So assuming we've got what we needed, we finish with 3D Slicer. We don't need it anymore. We can now close 3D Slicer off because we completely finished with this. So stop Slicer, and we will continue making the guide from here on.